Deep State Watch news on Sunday, the 28th of October, and there is so much going on at the moment, all kind of issues concerning freedom of speech, or rather threats and to freedom of speech at the, and then another thing is the very excellent opportunity tomorrow for activism outside the House of Parliament, because tomorrow Philip Hammond is going to present his budget, his new budget to Parliament. So I expect there's going to be it's going to be a very busy day in Westminster. I expect on College Green, where College Green, which is the little green in front of Parliament, where all the different TV networks, different media are assembled, interviewing politicians, etc., etc. I expect there's going to be a big media presence there for Budget Day. And interestingly enough, the Budget Day was supposed to be the 31st of October, on Halloween Day, but apparently it's openly, it's been brought forward of 3 days, because they were afraid of all kind of Halloween jokes being made about the Philip Hammond horror budget, and so they're quite open about it. It's not some they said that they brought it forward to avoid any kind of association with Halloween and the budget. So it's going to be Budget Day tomorrow, and there's going to be great opportunity for activism around Parliament, because there's going to be a lot of media, a lot of people around, a lot of member of Parliament, which most of the time is, on other occasions we have debate on the chamber, on an empty chamber, but when there is some big event, they are there. So there are going to be a lot of MP, member of Parliament, also in Parliament, which, and so I'm going to be there tomorrow to raise awareness, try to raise awareness about these programs. These programs based on harassment, on organized stalking, gang stalking, which I believe are an essential part is an essential, if unacknowledged, part of the activity of the deep state, and is important part in a major effort to basically enslave roundabout everybody. So, so you can consider them to be social engineering program. To give you quite simple, social engineering program that they're using an extra layer of harassment and extrajudicial punishment to as another tool to for social control, to control the population. And then we can go into how most people are aware of this kind of activities, most people are complicit with this kind of activities, and how they're probably also afraid that one day they may end up at the receiving end of this kind of activity. So this is you can consider it to be a social engineering program, which introducing an extra layer of harassment and extrajudicial punishment to further an agenda of social control, and then you may say also an agenda of social suppression. You know, the complete, you know, technology to completely suppress the lives, or in different way, you know, suppress the life of people who may get into whistleblowers, creating problems for the corporative state, blowing the whistle on a lot of corporate practice, blowing the whistle on paedophilia. So it is people, obviously, from the point of view of the deep state, these people need to be neutralized and suppressed. So let's say it's a social engineering program of completely unacknowledged. It's like it's been completely unacknowledged of social control and social suppression. And they've been very successful at hiding this program in plain sight. So most people know something is going on. Most people know something is going on, but they've been, say, persuaded that the guinea pig, the victims at the receiving end of this program are bad and dangerous people. We are bad and dangerous people, allegedly, and we are allegedly so bad. We are allegedly so bad and dangerous that the only way to contain us and control us is to subject us to, you know, to encourage the local population, the population at large, to help out with the 24/7 program of harassment, because we are allegedly so dangerous and bad and dangerous, that the only way to contain and control us is to keep this going, this 24/7 campaign of harassment against us. Meantime, you have all, you know, you have the intelligence community agencies like MI5, MI6, which are doing brisk deals with all kinds of terrorists, using them, sending them to Syria, to you know, and to Libya, to, you know, the friendly terrorists, sending them all over the world, in the Middle East. Then they know that these people are likely to come back one day. So imagine the danger posed on the population, but they just don't care. I mean, it's right for them to be in bed with all kinds of terrorists and to use them, also to use them to organize false flag terrorism, to terrorize the population and to control the population. And it's right for them to be this 50 years long cover up of pedophilia, you know, is like as I was reading just last night, is this excellent article by Joachim Egopian, charting all these, the cover up, the desperate cover up to cover up the establishment pedophilia, which is going back 50 years, and is mind-boggling. And so, you know, so there's the constant protection of, you know, it's right for MI5 to work with these, to use basically, there is a lot of evidence, it's not idle allegation as mayors, there's all evidence that MI5 was working, was using like the King Cora Boys Home in West Belfast, some sort of, you know, have some sort of pedophile brothel, where they were using it to compromise the control and blackmail a lot of politicians in Northern Ireland, and also, you know, politicians from different parts of the United Kingdom also. So it's right for them to basically for the VIP and the establishment to engage in pedophilia, to use pedophilia for their political purposes, to control the like the political class, or important element of the political class, but then, you know, so it's important for them to play along with terrorism, pedophilia, but then they say that the victim of this program of social engineering and harassment, we are, you know, with you know, you have all these criminals that they basically they are in bed together with the politician, with the intelligence community, and then they say that we, you know, victim of covert harassment are, which most of the time people in our community, they never hurt anyone in their entire life. They never been indicted or convicted of any crime. They also, you know, most of the time we respond with great dignity and restraint to the horrific thing being done to us on a day-to-day basis. But it's right for them to go around and saying that we are bad, very bad and dangerous people. We need to be contained, you know. And then if you talk about the population, if you talk about the population, the general population seems to be completely oblivious to, you know, you may argue that the general public is getting fed a daily diet from the cradle to the grave. They're being fed by mainstream media and other sources. They're being fed a constant diet of lies and propaganda from the cradle to the grave, basically. So if they accept all this nonsense they're being fed by the various newspapers and TV networks, and which they've been fed all nonsense, and that's immediately becomes the official truth. And so, in a way, it's not surprising that you know, this, you know, it's not surprising that they completely buy this thing that, oh, the victim of the people being targeted by this program are bad and dangerous people. And so, you know, because they in the same way they accept all kind of you know, all kind of lies about 9/11, about terrorism, which is mostly state terrorism that they use to control the population and to fight war for the state of Israel, if I can still say that without getting in trouble. I mean, you know, so yeah, so that's basically the situation, and so everyone seems to be. But you know, you need also to consider that you know. Anyone asking any question like this, people like they decide at some point to question the official narrative. Are these people really bad and dangerous? What is going on here? There's all kind of strange thing going on, including you have circumstantial evidence that I mean, from the point of view of the general public, I mean, that all kind of technologies are being used in this kind of situation. So is all going on here is the fact that these people are supposed to be bad and dangerous, because there's you know, there is some other stuff going on around them, and you know, which seem to point in all kinds of different directions other than these people being bad and dangerous. But there is stuff going on very strange and very bizarre, unexplained and unexplainable. So, but you must consider that in particularly nowadays, every person asking questions about anything, you know, you immediately get yourself in trouble. If you're a journalist, you know, you're at a press conference, you're asking the wrong question, you know, they get frozen into your desk and into your job, and eventually, you know, when they need to make some redundancy, is going to be you. So I mean, you know, there's a price to pay. It's not like we live in a situation where people are free to go around asking questions they're not supposed to ask. So I mean, anyway, so they hide this thing in plain sight. They tell people we are bad and dangerous people. We take guinea pigs. We are bad and dangerous people, allegedly, and everyone seems to completely believe it. You know, even sometimes, yeah, bad and dangerous people, everyone believes it. The general public, Fellow political activists, most of the time, you can see they believe this is nonsense. Even sometimes fellow whistleblowers, you can tell, you know, they think we are bad and dangerous. And sometimes even they manage to, even between victims of this kind of program, they manage to, you know, sometimes people, you know, they get people confused, and then even sometimes the victim thinks that their fellow victim may be bad and dangerous. That's the way it works. I mean, yeah. So that was so. Tomorrow is Budget Day in Westminster. Is going to be plenty of opportunity to campaign and to raise awareness about different issues. Also about the issues of this program of covert harassment. So I plan to be there. You know, everything being equal, I plan to be there tomorrow. There should be a lot of media, a lot of politicians around, and yeah, and yeah, then they have a way of completely ignoring you, and but that's another for another subject for another day. I suppose the fact that they are very good at ignoring everything which doesn't fit into their like self-interest and you know, and greed and the personal preoccupation and everything else which doesn't fit is like they completely ignore it. So let's move on then to freedom of speech, or the fact that freedom of speech is practically dying. I mean, when you get to a situation when you get like fairly reputable, you know, we don't talk about right-wing, we don't talk about the alt-right here. We are talking about, you know, being targeted with censor a number of different organizations from the left, from the right, of the political spectrum, including very reputable, very well-respected pages, website, you know, with millions of followers. And then you get to a situation, and that is the real problem. You get to a situation where you get to a situation where most social network users, at least the ones who are into politics, you know, that's the real central issue here, because you get a million of social network users, and that's actually very central. Which basically to a different extent, you know, to different degrees, they value their social network. They may be like myself. You know, I've been spending a lot of time trying to network with other political activists from all kind of background, all kind of different causes. Everyone will try to, you know, ask question about what is going on. And so, you know, so in a way, you don't want to lose your membership of a given social network, because that will be, in a way, will be a big step in silencing your voice. So I mean, it can be a fairly big platform for make you to make your voice heard by other people. So people don't want to lose they want to be kicked out most of the time, even if they may be slightly ambivalent about their membership of a social network. They don't really want to be kicked out. Most people don't really, you know, don't really fancy the idea of getting kicked out by their social networks. So once we get to this situation where in terms of the quality and quantity, all the people who are being censored. So everyone now is probably, everyone they post, I mean, people who are into politics, everyone they post something on a social network, they're probably wondering, I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to be kicked out. I don't know about other people. People don't seem to talk about this issue, but for myself, I can tell. I know I'm hugely self-censoring myself in what I say. Even though people don't seem to talk a lot about this side of this argument, I suspect that that's probably true for a lot of other people. So that's the main thing is self-censoring. Self-censoring is probably just. I suspect. Obviously I cannot know for sure because there has not been any kind of conversation very much on this topic. But I suspect that we are at the moment. We are on the back of all these, people getting kicked out of social network and etc. etc. We must have. I know it's true for myself. Obviously I can speak for other people, but I'm sure we have a huge amount of self-censoring. It is already the death of freedom of speech. When you get to this point, when everyone is self-censoring, then is a very dangerous situation. So, and now we have the, and then also what is really insidious for freedom of speech is there are various things that at the moment are threatening freedom of speech, and one of these is, and then when you speak about the subject, you immediately are bound to stir up a lot of controversy. But I think a great, and so I go out on a limb here and I say what I think. I think that one of the main threats to freedom of speech is political correctness. And people think like political correctness is like a new, like a form of new religion. If you, if you're against it, you must be evil. I think political correctness is being created mainly, and that's that's not going to go down well with a lot of people. I think it's been mainly created by what I call the terror financial banking syndicate to further their interest. I'm not saying everything about political correctness is bad. There may be good thing about political correctness. I say maybe is say 50% good, 50% detrimental, political correctness. But I think the main reason political correctness came on the scene, I think, is to further the interest of what I call the terror financial banking cartel. Amongst other things, to prevent them from, to protect them from criticism, people asking questions about various and numerous activities, and to being able to carry out some very dodgy, dubious agendas without anyone asking any question. So that is a great threat to freedom of speech. Political correctness is a huge threat to. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble with some people by saying this, but I think political correctness is one of the greatest threats to our freedom of speech. Now, they say, oh, people crawling out of the woodwork calling me a fascist or something, which, well, And then there is the polarization of the political discourse. The polarization of the political discourse, which means that everything you may say is, everything you may say is so polarized that everything anyone may decide to say is either you get accused by people on the right of being a communist, or you get accused from people on the left of being a fascist. So completely stifling any kind of political discourse. Right? So I would like now to have a look, talking about freedom of speech, I would like to have a look at something which is pretty controversial, and is something, let's see if we can get this thing. Yeah, okay. So the suppression of, Gab, social network Gab, blame for synagogue shooting, kicked off PayPal, right? That's one. And then, there is another one, away from Russia Today, which Russia Today, which is just Russia Today purely, I'm going for Russia Today purely because it seems to have a slightly more balanced approach on this subject without necessarily rushing to demonize Gab. So social network Gab to lose hosting after getting blamed for synagogue shooting. Now the thing, one thing is that the fact that the shooter seemed to be posting material of similar material on not only on Gab but on any number of other social networks. He was posting the same material. He was posting on Gab on any number of other social networks. So why, you may, in terms of common sense, you may want to ask why, why some other of the major social networks are not being banned as well, or boycotted as well, because he was posting more or less the same material on Gab and on other major social networks. So why Gab is getting banned or boycotted, the other social network, there is also a mention of the other social network which allowed this person to post exactly the same material on their networks. So that would be a good question. So I think what that is the polarization of the polarization of the political narrative, the polarization on both sides of the Atlantic, absolutely on both sides of the Atlantic. So if I try to say anything which I think in standing up for freedom of speech and say I don't think Gab should be boycotted or censored, there is immediately people coming out to woodwork and say like, oh, because you are, automatically, it's exactly automatic reflex like a Pavlov dog, like, oh, you must be a fascist then. If you try to defend Gab, you must be a fascist. So there you go. But we are in a dire situation. We are in a dire situation with regard to freedom of speech. We are in a dire situation with regard to freedom of speech. And we need to stand up. We need to stand up for freedom of speech. Without what, if everyone starts to worry too much, oh, if I stand up for freedom of speech, there's all these people which are going to accuse me of not being politically correct. If I stand up for freedom of speech, there is all these people accuse me of being a communist or being a fascist. Then you can say goodbye to your freedom of speech. That's what I think. So. Freedom of speech is often defined as, I will fight for the freedom of you to say what you think, even if I may find your views as objectionable and abhorrent. So that's, you know, because otherwise, if it's freedom of speech will only be the freedom to say the thing which is nicey, which everyone agree with, then all the debate about freedom of speech, it was not about the freedom of people to be nicey things on which there is a large consensus. Freedom of speech is about people being free to express opinion which other people may find objectionable and abhorrent. Otherwise, that's the whole debate about freedom of speech. So that's for freedom of speech. There is also another interesting now the thing is a bit malfunctioning, so we are in trouble now. Try to get some article, but I can get the article. Trying to get the article, but I can't. So anyway, that's a bit of a problem, but because I wanted to go through quite several articles that now seem to be unavailable. But yeah, save article that I wanted to share with people. So I'm unable to. But anyway, so then there is it's quite interesting because about self-censoring, I think self-censoring is rarely mentioned issue which is at the core of all this freedom of speech issue. A few years ago, just before Snowden came out with these revelations, Intelligence Supremo in the US, James Clapham, came out and said publicly, he was asking, like, what is the point of having the more sophisticated, the more intrusive, the more system of surveillance, way of surveilling the entire population, if people are not afraid of it? So that's quite interesting. And then after some time, I say after a couple of months, that we start getting all the Snowden revelations, and so we had a way of finding out the extent to which they are spying on us. And now we have this huge self-censoring of people. So I'm not saying that all these different events are connected, but maybe with everyone censoring, they get the population exactly where they want it to be. So yeah, so and I feel a bit hampered in what I'm trying to do because I cannot access. I cannot access. Let's see if I can access through history. Basically, some of the articles I would like to share with people. Yeah, so look, okay, there was this very good article about the activities of the deep state, which, if you can bring it up, yes, so let's look. Yeah, this is an excellent article, which gives some idea of the level of the activities of the deep state at the unbelievable level of corruption we have on both sides of the Atlantic, which is the stuff you couldn't possibly make up yourself. Is mind-blowing. So this article by the excellent Joachim Egopian is called Paedophilia, Empire, Deep State, Jimmy Savile and Margaret Thatcher. The relationship is explored like the relationship between because there's a bit of a folklore around and about the relationship between Jimmy Savile and three different generations of the royal family. There's not something you want to dwell too much about because there is a lot of information still available about this royal relationship, And I think that anyone which would set out to, collect this information and start dig into this matter, connecting all the dots, and then try to disseminate this information, I don't think it would do a lot for this person's life expectancy. So I mean, it's a very delicate subject, the relationship between Jimmy Savile and 3 different generations of the royal family. So I don't want to dwell too much on this rather touchy subject. Anyway, the 3 generations of so Jimmy Savile get very intimate with Lord Mountbatten first, then subsequently he became very intimate with Prince Philip and with Prince Charles. So that's more or less it. I'm not going to say anything more because, you know, I think is a very dangerous. This is a very dangerous ground to. But this article deals with something which is connected anyway. It deals with between the relationship between Jimmy Savile and personal relationship with Margaret Thatcher, and then the relationship between Jimmy Savile and the Thatcher government and various ministers, members of the Thatcher cabinet, namely, particularly the late former Home Secretary Liam Britton. You may have heard about Liam Britton, little escapades and things. But anyway, and then deal with Jimmy Savile relationship with the NHS, the BBC, Whitehall civil servants, Whitehall mandarins, Jimmy Savile and the intelligence community, MI5, MI6. And the thing, you know, is Joachim Hagopian is everything he says, almost every single paragraph, you get some reference. So to some newspaper article, to some statements someone has made on record, to some books. So it's all reference, everything. So it, you know, and another excellent thing, unlike many similar article, so everything is documented. Every statement he makes is documented. It's all expressed in a very eloquent, very rational way, and unbelievable facts, unbelievable information, and mind-blowing information. Even I'm pretty familiar with the subject, but this article brought to my attention a lot of information I didn't know anything about, and it's pretty mind-blowing stuff. Also, the Jimmy Savile relationship with the NHS, it was giving access to all kind of hospital, Broadmoor psychiatric hospital, all kind of other hospitals. It was basically, it was like he was running all this. It was in and out. It was like, you know, it was like, or some of these hospitals, these different NHS organizations. It was like it was his personal fiefdoms. It was in and out. It was running, almost running these different NHS institutions, and everyone was deferring to him and stuff. So I mean, it's rather unbelievable stuff. All documented, but yes. So yeah, unlike, because you get a lot of my God, you get you know, it's a bit of a minefield if you try to find out about things, and you have to shift through a lot of misinformation, disinformation, lie, propaganda. Even you get the people like, you know, that write an article about some subject is all very good information, and then toward the end they start making some crazy over-the-top statement to discredit all the material, to specifically discredit some narrative, some you know, some exposure, of certain crime of the deep state and establishment. So you don't get any of that with Joachim Megopian. It's all documented stuff. It's all rational stuff. It's all mind-blowing stuff about basically pedophilia and establishment. And you know, there's people even believe that if you know, if you and it's quite interesting because all these people in Margaret Thatcher cabinets, people like Leon Brittan, which was then put in charge of the Home Office, so you can you know, like quite literally putting a pedophile in charge of a crash or something. So it's so he was put in charge of the Home Office. So the Home Office was supposed to be there protecting people from children from predatory pedophile. Leon Brittan was in charge of the Home Office. And all these people like Leon Brittan and it's another interesting thing is that you know, the close personal relationship with between Margaret Thatcher and Jimmy Savile. It's apparent that they was often invited to Chequers, to Downing Street, to spend time with Margaret and the husband, and it was like a member of the family. Which people probably don't know, because people know about the relationship with the royal family. They don't know about the relationship with the Thatcher government. But yeah, but the interesting thing is that all these people, which so you know, the documented allegation is that basically the Thatcher government was full of pedophiles, basically, and it's all documented because all these people were in there was rumors about all these people in the Thatcher government, on and off rumors, that then they were investigated, they were cautioned, they were even occasionally questioned by the police and cautioned but not charged. And so, I mean, it was an ongoing saga of pedophilia with all 2-3 years of the Thatcher government, 11 years of pedophilia government, basically. And it's interesting thing is that all these people, to get their job, like, you know, to be clear, to get the Home Office, Leon Brittan was being vetted by you know, to get the job, it was being vetted by the intelligence community, and there was evidence for his pedophilia all over the place. It was just unbelievable. So so you know, so it's difficult to you know. So what's happened there with the intelligence community? They were totally incompetent and stupid. Oh, actually, it's all part of deliberate system of control, whereby if you are supposed to get a job of great responsibility, you need to be a pedophile, because so this way they can make sure that you know, you will never go against the people who gave you the job in the first place. So that's quite interesting. And then you have, if we want to talk about the intelligence community, there is all this very strong allegation, very strong documented allegation that you know, you had this children home in West Belfast, in the King Cora boys' home, and there was basically is apparently, let's say apparently, allegedly, it was being used by MI5 to have some sort of, you know, excuse my French, but some sort of pedophile brothel to compromise a number of Northern Irish politicians, which came, you know, there was the troubles and things, so to have control over quite a number of politicians, or possibly even of different political persuasions, was quite, I'm sure, was quite handy for the intelligence community to make sure that they could, like, you know, exert the degree of control on the troubles, or what was going on in Northern Ireland. So that's also, if you want to, you know, if you want to look at the the relationship between the intelligence community, which is supposed to protect us from terrorism, whilst being bad with terrorism all the time. So it's supposed to protect us from terrorism and maybe also to protect us from paedophilia, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, so basically, and getting also to the latest, Mr. Egopian is also regarding what happened with the latest court case, whereby well, anyway, to make a long story short, I think Mr. Egopian is arguing that some of the extra legislation, some of the legislation which are being considered or being passed at the moment in terms of protecting the privacy, mainly the privacy of VIP people from allegation and media coverage, Mr. Egopian is arguing that this is actually not designed to protect the privacy of ordinary people, which, you know, is not something which has anything to do with the privacy of ordinary people, but is another way of ensuring the impunity of all these establishment pedophiles. That's what Mr. Egopian is arguing. So it's something that's happening now. They're trying to pass this new legislation just now, and saying that the task is to protect the privacy of people. But many people think that actually this new legislation is an extra layer to ensure impunity for all these deep state establishment pedophiles. Yes, so then it's quite interesting because see, this article is being hosted by something called Public Intelligence Blog, which is the creation of a former US intelligence officer turned whistleblower, Robert Steele, which basically is advocating many political changes in the US political system, and he has a lot of good ideas. I wouldn't say all of them, but quite some of his ideas are very good ideas. He's also advocating open source intelligence. No. So, you know, open source intelligence. So, you know, everyone contribute to know what is going on at the national, a geopolitical level. Everyone is able to access this information. Open source, open source intelligence, like unlike the system of secrecy we have now that is supposed to protect, like national security, but is only protecting a bunch of common criminal pedophile in government, in our respecting government, in our respecting business community, in our respecting banking community. So national security is that, you know, the secrecy is not protect my security or your security. Is protect the security of this bunch of common criminals, warmongering, that people made million, 100 million, 50 million, Tony Blair out of, you know, killing a million of Iraqis. So this secret is not about my security or your securities. It's about the security of a small number of common criminal, warmongering, pedophile. Yes. So having said that, So because that is not to be confused. Is very complex area, but that is not to be confused with people like the clown running this you know, I don't remember this the name of this person, which is, I think, is the eminently forgettable kind of person, but he's running this Bellingcat organization. He said that he's running this Bellingcat organization on the basis of open source intelligence, but unfortunately, Bellingcat is hiding under this idea, behind this idea of open source intelligence to promote the most despicable and revolting web deep state and establishment propaganda. So that not to be confused by clown like the guy running Bellingcat, which you know, that's not open source. That open source, that is just despicable propaganda. Try to hide, you know, try to increase tension with Russia, try to, like, you know, when people try to, you know, media people try to often lying in the most you know, despicable way about and try to increase tension with Russia, then you have to ask them, what are you after? What are you after? Do you want us all to die in a nuclear holocaust? But, you know, that would be a good question to ask them. But, oh, because we need to stand up to Russia, because otherwise they will take over everything in the United States, in the United Kingdom, everywhere. So, okay. Propaganda, as I said. But anyway, this is genuine. What Robert Steele is trying to do is promoting genuine open source intelligence. And because we have this quite perverse situation whereby it would appear, without, you know, without jumping to conclusion, it would appear that when it comes to, on both sides of the Atlantic, when it comes to the intelligence community, we talk about the CIA, NSA, and MI5, MI6, GCSQ. It would seem that they are spending most of their money and resources in domestic spying on the American people, spying on the people in this country, and they would also appear, because there is, you know, and then when it comes to collecting what they are supposed to be collecting, which is geopolitical intelligence, you get all these scores of generals and diplomats which are complaining when they, you know, when the one who dare to complain, they say, we are asking to fight war, we have been asked to fight war for the state of Israel, and we are asked to conduct diplomacy, and we are getting any intelligence from agency like the CIA. The intelligence we are getting is garbage. So you get all these general admirals and diplomats, you know, in the US, also in this country, and when they dare to speak out, they say, like, we are asked to conduct to fight all this war for the state of Israel, and you know, because that's the truth. And we have been asked to conduct you know, our diplomatic efforts, and we are not given any intelligence, or the quality of the intelligence provided to us is total garbage. That's what a lot of the brave one, the courageous one, that's what they're saying. So basically, we have all the intelligence agency on both sides of the Atlantic. They seem to be spending most of their money and resources in spying on the domestic population. And then when it comes to you know, when it comes to collecting geopolitical intelligence that could or should be used for by the military, by the people working for the State Department, people working for the Foreign Office. What they seem to be doing, I don't want to malign them, or to jump to conclusion, but on the strength of a lot of the evidence, what they seem to be doing, they can be bothered to collect any evidence. So they see what the political master of the day require, and then they make stuff up. And then when they get some courageous journalist ask this question about where is the evidence, they say, oh, we can possibly tell you for reason obviously of national security, or we can possibly tell you, otherwise we'll be able to kill you, or something along this line. But it's and it's most of the time is is they just making up stuff. So Robert Steele is promoting this public intelligence blog, is promoting open source intelligence. So a complete departure from the criminal, promoting a complete departure from the criminal activities of our respective intelligence communities, and advocating open source intelligence. So I would very much strongly advise people, actually, you can see, there is the public intelligence blog, and I would very much advise for people to Google it up, and subscribe, submit your email address. You will get every day in your inbox a huge amount of very excellent, fantastic information. So yeah, so I will. This is. So this is about the paedophilia, and so basically you read this article from Joachim Egopian, which has also been writing excellent article on a number of different subjects, and so the guy is fantastic what he does. I mean, you read this article, is all constantly, every single paragraph, he makes a statement, and then he points you into the direction of the source, being it books, so documents, newspaper articles. So it's all documented, every single word he says is documented. It's all mind-blowing. Even if you know about corruption, read this article and you think, oh my God. Even if you knew already about the corruption on both sides of the Atlantic, you read this article and say, oh my God, this is corruption. So, and this guy, he wrote a number of, he's writing, coming out, he's quite prolific, and you have to think like he's spending most of his time digging up this information and documenting it. My God, do we need this kind of stuff? Do we need this kind of stuff? People still doing this. Being submerged by all the, all this avalanche of lies, misinformation, disinformation is unbelievable. So that's so much for pedophilia and and the deep state and the establishment. And let's move to something different, which is I want also to touch on something which is the isolation of often the victims of this program of social engineering and harassment. You're part of the international community of victims, and we exchange a lot of information all the time online between us, between different countries, the United States, this country, Australia, different, France, Germany. And often you come across this narrative that, there is tens of thousands of us, and we are this close to cracking it, and it's going to end tomorrow or the day after. And but then, if you are a victim of this kind of program of harassment, your personal experience is often somewhat different. You get a lot of people, say, oh yeah, I'm a victim. I never met any other victim in the flesh. in person. You know, all my contact with other victims have been online, or maybe if you're lucky over the telephone. And then you get people saying like, oh yeah, I had a contact with a few, I met up with a few other fellow victims, but the experience ended up in complete trauma, and you know, it's encouraged me to just give up and keeping myself to myself. So often, you know, we have been told like, oh, there is tens of thousands of victims all over the world. We are legion, and we are going to crack it tomorrow or the day after. But then, you know, the actually practical experience of you know, victim of harassment is somewhat different. And you get people that get completely victimized by all their circle of friends. You know, you get people getting victimized in the local community. People getting victimized entirely by their own family, by their own relatives. And then you get, you know, people say, oh yeah, I've been at TI, I've been in you know, communicating with other TI online for maybe 10, 15 years, but I never met a TI in person. Or you get people, yeah, I met a number of TIs. Every time I met other TI is ended up with total trauma, which is you know, which is then because that seems to be the aim of the people running this program. You know, we are guinea pigs, and you know, you need to be a bit careful the way you handle guinea pigs. If you are in a you know, one of the like these horror kind of Frankenstein laboratories run by the big farmers, for instance, torturing animal and opening up the skull and doing things to the brain and whatever. So you know, you can control the poor animal by keeping them in cages. How do you control the victim of covert harassment, victim which are used as guinea pigs to see what it does work, what it doesn't work, in terms of social control, in terms of social suppression? What do you do? We are I mean, there's quite a, you know, a number of us which occasionally, you know, get incarcerated, sometime in psychiatric hospitals, sometime in other facilities. But most of the time, and because people get basically set up, or you know, like you know, but you know, most of the time, the victims of these kind of programs live in the community. So no cages. So how do they manage to control us? And the way they manage to control us is to persuade everyone, firstly, that we are bad and dangerous people. We need to be contained. We need to be controlled through constant harassment. That's the first way. And also to you know, to kind of traumatize the victim, often in giving up on you know, on reaching out to other people, reaching out to fellow victims, traumatize the victims into giving up. And so you know, the 10th question you may want to ask is, how can they be so successful in doing this, even getting victims to give up on you know, reaching out, etc., etc. Yep. The first thing I think is because most of the communication between victims dash guinea pigs happen through the internet. Now the internet, so now let's have a look at the internet. What's happening at the internet? The internet was created by DARPA, which is the US Pentagon Advanced Defense Research Agency. So basically, the internet was created by the military. Now, I don't want to, I don't want to make too much of that. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean the internet is a bad thing, or is completely controlled, or is completely flawed. But so basically, but anyway, there is. I think there is this kind of original sin in this situation, which the original sin being that most victims rely heavily on the internet for their communication with other victims. And so what happened, we know that what happened prior to maybe the mid-90s, there's like a lot of victims were living in total isolation, try to survive, try to stay sane. And then with the in the mid-90s, when the advent of the internet became quite widespread, people starting to be able to access the internet at home. An increasing number of people became able to increase the internet at home. And then an increased number of victims of character harassment started to find each other, start to find out that actually it's not just me experiencing this kind of strange and bizarre, crazy things. It's just there is 100,000 of people out there which are saying exactly the same identical things. So anyway, so so the internet has been instrumental in getting, and that was certainly a very good, fantastic thing. Let's be clear. I mean, it was a big step forward, and thank God to the internet for that. But in a way, it also showed that we are all a bit like captive and prisoner of dependent on this medium. So it also shows our dependency on this kind of medium to communicate with each other, to do things with each other. Now, and the internet. So there is several things to be said about the. There is several things to be said about the internet. How the internet, communication on the internet, and then we may say especially on social network, is totally rigged. Now people starting to learn about this algorithm. So shadow banning and real banning, which is even worse. So yeah, so basically you have some, you have there was this statement made by some, Silicon Valley top executive, and he was talking about the algorithm. I say algorithm with, they're going to help us to keep the shitty people, excuse my French, shitty people out. So so what that means, the shitty people will be like me and you, everyone, like interested in asking any question about what is going on. We have the shitty people, and they need to keep us out. So what they do is probably in other words, yeah, there's in layman terms. I mean, you post anything mentioning the word Zionism or Greater Israel, or or target individuals or something, and and I don't think that many people are going to be able to see what you have just posted. Something, and that's one thing, shadow banning, and then the fear of being banned for good, which I think I don't think I'm a particular. I'm not going to say I'm a very brave, a courageous person, but I don't think I am a particularly timid person either. But it's on my mind all the time. I mean, the fear of being kicked off by a number of social networks. So I'm very guarded on sometimes, often, what I post and stuff. So I mean, I don't think so. I incline to think that it's not just me. It's just that people don't talk about it. So I think it's probably affecting other people, but just people are not just talking about it. They're not talking about it. It's happening, and it's screwing up people, basically. Excuse my French. So yeah, so that's another side. So explaining the isolation of target individual or victim of covert harassment, shadow banning. But then something which was a bit, I think, is very interesting, because that was maybe a couple of years ago, and we got this information coming out, and it came out by accident, like often happens. So the thing was not supposed to be in the public domain, but then they, you know, like. That's why they, that's why they're so desperate to go after the Julian Assange, because he's one of the main facilitators getting into public domain things which are not supposed to be in the public domain. But anyway, there is this information which kind of leaked out, that Facebook was conducting psychological experiment on people. Basically, what they were doing, and that was old information. It's just the thing. We learned about it a couple of years ago. Facebook was withdrawing feedback from people that they were posting a lot of stuff, a lot of sharing, a lot of articles, and for hours and hours, and no one seemed to be paying any attention. So they were decide to withdraw feedback from people to see, to study the psychological reaction. So you know, so this guy is posting and sharing a lot of articles, a lot of information, spending a couple of hours or a few hours sharing information from different media sources and stuff. And no one seems to be paying any attention. So let's see, well, let's study the reaction. Is the person going to get angry? Or is the person going to stop posting? Or is the person, or the nature of the post is going to change slightly in a subtle way? So they were using people as guinea pigs to do this stuff. And then after a while, they were flooding people with all the feedback they've been withdrawing from them, to see how they were reacting, how they're going to become euphoric, they're going to become relaxed, they're going to post even more, or they maybe, now they get kind of feedback, they're going to stop posting. So they were conducting all this kind of psychological experiment of people. Facebook, I don't have the time and energy to go to looking up for the information, but you can do it yourself. You know, Facebook had to admit that they actually, after a while, they had to admit that, oh yeah, they were conducting this experiment. They don't mean any harm. So yeah. So that for me, I mean, I'm not so much focused about this little morsel of information. To me, the information leaked out by accident, right? So see, the thing is, if they had to admit that they were conducting this kind of psychological experiment of their users, their equity, you know, that's probably the tip of the tip of the tip of a huge iceberg. So, you know, what also are they doing to use people as guinea pigs that we don't know about? That's probably the tip of a huge iceberg. If they to admit about this, what else they are doing to us? So yeah, so you have all this thing about shadow banning, keeping out the shitty people. You know, the social network probably conducting all kind of evil experiment on their users. I mean, you know, And I think there is, you know, people which are a bit awake, that a bit aware of what is going on. They often probably wonder about, you know, the fact that they can be. But we know people are being targeted with customized and targeted information with advertising. So, you know, everyone knows it. I mean, you go looking on eBay for something, and then you go on Facebook, I mean, and then you go looking on eBay for, say, I don't know, a new laptop charger, and then you go on Facebook, and then on the right-hand side you get a huge amount of adverts for, you know, for laptop chargers and the such like and things. So we know we get personalized targeting with advertising, but you know, and then you get, we know it's a common knowledge we were getting personalized targeting with advertising and adverts. But there was recently something slightly even more sinister than you know, in which it seemed to have been documented on Netflix in you know, is one of the you know, is one of the companies which you go on Facebook, you go different, you get the advert from Netflix on the right and stuff. They were advertising people in such a way that if they, for instance, advertising for a movie, if they were advertising it to, it was on the page of some of a black person, then people started to notice that the advert for the movie, or the little maybe you know, trailer playing on the right hand side of your screen, computer screen, it was actually featuring black people in the trailer. And as I said, that white people were being targeted with the trailer, a different trailer featuring mostly white people. So basically, what I'm getting at, is to which degree they can personalize what we get on our screen, or some of the information we are getting. So I personally believe that the internet as a way of communication is a fantastic way of people to communicate with each other, to share information, to ask questions about the criminal activity of the deep state. And they are rattled, you can see they are rattled, and you know, by it is really brazen. If you look at the really brazen forms of censors they're introducing, you can say they really worried these people, these criminals, this common criminal and pedophile. Yeah, so they're really rattled by all the information people are exchanging online. They you know, they introducing form of censorship, totally arbitrary and totally often illegal, often unlawful, and whatever. They don't care anyway, but because they think they can get away with it. But you know, so it is the internet is a fantastic thing. It's the way in the mid-90s victims of coercive harassment managed to start finding each other and helping each other. Is a fantastic thing, the internet. But also, I think the internet, which was, let's not forget, was created by DARPA. The internet is totally rigged from top to bottom. So it's totally rigged from top to bottom, even probably to you know, in terms of who can see what you are posting on social network, what is going to pop up on your screen, what you are going to see in your timeline. What kind of, not just the advert, we know about the advert, but do you think it's limited to the adverts? You know about the target advert, you go looking for a, you know, a laptop charger on eBay, and all the rest of the evening you get targeted with these people selling new charger, old charger, used charger on the right hand side of your screen. right? So we know they can do it with advertising, but you know, what if that were to be used to, you know, to prevent people from finding each other, to prevent people from working together, to prevent people from getting the right information, to get the wrong information to people, to spread misinformation, distrust, conflict. So, you know, people say that, you know, as I say, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, we are being told all the time there is we are victim of correct harassment, we are legion, we are going to crack it very soon, it's going to stop, but then the experience of single individual victims is very different. The day-to-day experience, they probably feel that they're totally isolated in their local community, within their family, within their circle of friends. They lost all their friends, all the people, all the relatives have been turning against them. All of the people in the local community, they victimizing them, and even in terms of dealing with other fellow victims, they often they say, "Oh yeah, I've been in, you know, on the internet for 15 years, communicated with other victims, and I never met any other victim in person, or maybe I had a couple of telephone calls." So that's the difference between what you know, the optimistic version of what is going on, and the reality, the stark reality most targeted individual experience in their day-to-day life, that they feel that they, you know, they lost all their friends. We are going to crack it very soon, yes, but the reality is they lost all their friends, they get all the relatives turning against them, everyone in the local community seems to be against them, and even in terms of, you know, some people say in terms of communicating and dealing with other fellow targeted individual, people say like, you know, I've been communicating with people on the internet for 10, 15 years, I never met another targeted individual in person. Or, you know, other people may say like, other people may say, you know, yes, I met a number of the other target individuals, but, you know, the experience has been totally traumatic, nothing short of traumatic, and then that it did, in a way, encourage me to even, you know, to retreat in a way, to give up on reaching out to other victims, and that's the way they want people to be, because we are basically guinea pigs. And when you're conducting an experiment on a guinea pig, you need total control over the guinea pig. So if you are in one of these laboratories, when they do horrific thing, unspeakable thing to animals, opening their like top of their head and getting into the brain and putting electrodes and unspeakable things, they control the animal because they are in a cage. But we target individual. We are not in a cage. We are, most of us live in the community. So how they control us, how they exert this kind of total control they seem to have over us. And for one thing, is turning everyone against us, losing all our friends, getting all our relatives to turn against us, all the local people to turn against us. That's one thing. And then the other thing is fellow target individual, to make sure that they, anytime we try to reach out, and they're going into how they can achieve that. They seem to be able to achieve that quite easily from anecdotal experience and story and things. But they make sure that every time that you try to reach out to other victims, fellow victims, then you know, these you often the experience end up in grievous trauma, and then as a consequence, people, like, after a while they give up, like, you know, they focus on day-to-day survival, logistic survival, and then they completely give up in reaching out to to other target individuals. Because, as I said, you know, if you're an animal in a laboratory, they do unspeakable thing to you, you are in a cage, you can't escape. But most target individuals live in the community. So how do you control them? How do you control the guinea pigs? And you control the guinea pigs basically by completely assassinating their character, getting anyone, I mean anyone, to be against them, and then making also sure that everyone they try to reach out to fellow victims, all the experience ends up in trauma and disappointment. So this is the situation. One of the explanations why they are able to achieve this horrible thing so easily is with the fact that, as I said, early 90s, mid 90s, people started to find each other. But even now, most target individuals rely very heavily on the internet to communicate, to find each other for all kinds of different things. And the internet, which is in many ways is a wonderful thing, is also completely rigged from top to bottom. It does account at least partially why they are able to keep target individual so isolated from each other. The fact that most of the time people rely heavily on the internet, which, as I said, is in itself a wonderful thing, or could be a wonderful thing. But, you know, look at the targeted advertising you're getting on the right-hand side of your screen. You know, the internet, the way things are, is totally rigged in terms of what you. So a lot of the stuff you can see on your computer screen is somewhat rigged and controlled, interfered with. So that does go some way to explain about target individual isolation. And then also probably the main thing to explain, because I think people like there's people like out there, target individual, I think, yeah, they go online, they've been told, oh, we are legion, we are soon going to crack it, targeting is going to stop. But in their day-to-day life, they have a very different experience. They see that around them, everyone is against them, and every time they try to reach out to other target individual, often it ends up in trauma. And then they give up reaching out. It's sometimes. So there is the difference between what sometimes some information we get exchanged between target individual, which is like a bit over optimistic, and the stark reality of the most target individual day-to-day life, which is often is about giving completely up on communicating with people or with fellow victims, just try to survive from one day to the next in terms of logistics, in terms of their life being complete sabotage, in terms of their life being complete sabotage, in terms of their financial sabotage, in terms of money disappearing from their bank account, all kinds of things being done to them, and so they give up. So we have this somewhat the difference between the somewhat over optimistic. It may be done. People may do this for all the right reason, to encourage each other to you know, say, oh, we are there is so many of us, and we are going to soon to crack it, and it's going to end. And I'm sure people do it for the right reasons. They will try to encourage themselves, they encourage fellow victims. But what I would like to say is that often I suspect that the day-to-day reality of the overwhelming majority of target individuals is somewhat different. And we're talking about complete isolation, and we're talking about people even giving up on reaching out to fellow victims. So yeah, so it's a very long, it's a very I don't, you know, I mean, one thing is the heavily reliance. One of the cause, because you have to ask what is going on. You know, it's like, oh, we are, you know, there's supposed to be tens of thousands of us, and we are supposed to be this close to cracking it. But my experience is of complete isolation and actually retreating in a way of from even maybe sometimes trying, because I saw it with a lot of people, you know, which you know, try to do something, communicate, make videos, do things, and then after a while they seem to be giving up. So I mean, it's also this this inconsistency between and a certain narrative, which is maybe spread for the best reason by people just to give people hope, but the stark reality of isolation which most target individuals are experiencing. And I saw in as a person who's been trying to organize events and protests in London, and he was very successful for a couple of years. I would say between 2016 and 2017, and we had very even weekly event and meeting, and they still you're getting people to attend. And then when I started to my lobby Julian Assange campaign at the end of 2017, all hell started to break loose, and everyone disappeared. So obviously I touched a bit of a nerve there, a raw nerve there with the, but you know, but for a couple of years we had a lot of things going on, and but I could experience the reluctance of people to get involved, like you know, wait, the temptation, oh, you know, I'm not feeling well, I want to focus on my own personal problem and stuff. And so this is another element to show what is often going on with target individuals. At some point they just give up in reaching out to fellow victims. So then you ask the question, why they're so successful in pushing people into isolation? And one of the reasons is, I think, to start with conversation. Not the only reason, but one of the reasons is the fact that the heavy reliance a lot of target individuals have on the communicating on the internet. At the internet, which in many ways is a wonderful thing, is also completely rigged. So is a way in which they can, in a way, play mind game with people. The internet, and the fact that it's completely rigged, is very effective in playing mind game with people. That may be a contributing factor where people at some point they give up and they resign themselves to complete isolation. So that's the other reason I have to mention it, that I know this is very controversial and it's not going to make me any new friends or anything, but and I'm going to be absolutely vague in what I'm going to say, to make absolutely sure that you know, no one is going to feel like I'm talking about them or I'm pointing the finger at them. But I believe, you know, we know how the, now to be, you know, there's this book, came out, I think maybe 18 months ago, by two Guardian journalists. The Guardian, again, we need to say a couple of words about the Guardian. The Guardian is like a schizophrenic creature whereby occasionally you get some good information. But this, anyway, was a private endeavor by a couple of writing this book, which is called Undercover. It was a private endeavor by a couple of Guardian journalists, so I don't think it was falling under the umbrella of the Guardian, the media, blah, blah, blah. So this couple of Guardian journalists, they wrote this book called Undercover, and they were charting all the, basically, the extent to which spy corps have been infiltrating for several decades thousands of political groups in this country, and you get, most of the time you're getting, like, you know, animal rights activists and ecological activists. People are concerned about what's happening to our planet. So I mean, and then obviously the obvious question is why they want to squander taxpayer money to spy on these people. But you know, so that's another question for another day. But anyway, so but we have the evidence. We got the evidence. Often what you saw, like, you know, amazing thing, like there was this guy calling himself Mark Stone, which actually his real name was Mark Kennedy. People, you know, it was at the time, it was on all the newspaper about this guy and his activities and blah blah blah. And Mr. Kennedy, Mark Kennedy, it was, at some point there was a group of 3 people in the ecological movement which were liaising and traveling to Ireland, to Germany, to a number of other countries to liaise with green activists in these countries, Ireland, Germany. Then they discovered at some point, it became apparent that there were 3 people liaising between the green movement in this country and the green movement in Ireland and Germany. But 2 of these 3 people were actually police informers. So that does give you some idea of the extent of the infiltration in ordinary political movement and group and protest group in this country. Two-thirds, 2 people out of 3 of the, we don't know about the third one. You know, God, I mean, but let's hope the third one, at least it was genuine. But so we know at least for a fact that 2 of these 3 people were police informers. So does give you some idea of the extent of the infiltration of you know, police informers in political groups in this country over the last few decades. Now, I need to be careful here because I don't want to make any enemies. So what I'm going to say, I point the finger at what is a general phenomenon. I'm not going to say a single word pointing the finger, even at the most vague hint of, you know, pointing toward any organization, any group, anything. It's not going to happen. But what starting with what we saw, the extent of the infiltration of police informers in political group in this country, you know, so something like 2/3 of the people. And then there is another story like this, like, you know, at some point there was this, so many stories, unbelievable. I mean, like they had this this group of, I think it was called, oh, can't remember, but it was a green group, a political, ecological activists that were meeting in London, and at some point you know, they were actually thinking of dissolving the group because there were very few people attending their events. But then when they, I think it was after this group got some attention from the corporate world about the McLibel suit and you know, case. All of a sudden, they found that the group, which was dying out in a way in terms of attendance, all of a sudden, a lot of new people starting to attend this group after all this McLibel thing started to blow out, and you know, they started going through the courts, and McDonald's was trying to sue these people, and leaflet, and then after that, it became apparent that most of these people were actually corporate spy used by McDonald's and other fast food companies to spy on this group. So I mean, that give you some idea of the extent of the infiltration in ordinary political group and peaceful movement. Basically, 99.99% of there have been some question about some ALF, Animal Liberation Front, some of their activity, but 99.99% of all these people were totally peaceful, law-abiding people, which were concerned about the environment and other issues. So, yeah, being spied on, they often lured into relationship with these people, spy caps, which the people running this program, they knew about the relationship. They say, oh no, we don't know anything about it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so basically what I'm going to say, I'm going to say, and as I said, I'm not going to say anything which may be constructed a point a finger in any particular direction, right? But so if these political group were so infiltrated, so heavily infiltrated, I think the same thing is happening with the TI community, and is probably a lot even worse, because, as I say, we are guinea pig. There is no cages involved. Yeah, we all live in the community. They need to control us, right? They desperately need to control us. They're not able to keep us in cages, right? But they still need to control us completely. So what they do? So we have a situation where TI community, let's be honest about it, and I'm not saying a word to point a finger in any particular direction, absolutely not. But I think that in general, in purely general terms, I believe that the TI community infiltrated from top to bottom, completely infiltrated. Like, you know, you get a situation where, similar to this group of people liaising with the green movement on the continent, where you had three people, and two of them were known afterward, police informers. So they probably, I would say that, you know, you have what a situation of 66% of infiltration, and I think in the TI community it's probably even worse. And what that means, and you know, I don't want to say any more about that, because then so I want to make absolutely clear that I am not pointing the finger, or even say the vaguest innuendo, or, you know, pointing in any direction, okay? The specific direction. So I just wanted to address a general problem, which is, I think, the TI community is totally infiltrated from top to bottom, and is a lot worse, I believe, that what is happening in the activism community, the normal, ordinary activism community. And why I'm saying this? Why I'm saying, not because I want to enjoy causing trouble or causing suspicion, or you know, poisoning the narrative. Oh no, no, because I starting from this situation, whereby we you know, we're told, oh, we are legion, we're going to crack it very soon and stuff, and then the reality of most target individuals is somewhat different, and it's a reality of complete isolation, where people that they don't have any support from anyone, they don't feel they can really trust anyone. That's the reality, I believe. I may be wrong, correct me if I am wrong, but that's, I believe, is the reality of many target individuals. Now, how do we address this situation? How do we, you know, we starting from this situation, how we move towards something else? Yeah, we have this situation, and I think the only way to move forward for people is to try again to get out of their isolation. They need to understand what is going on. You know, yeah, you can't just, we have a lot of target individual in isolation. Oh, you can't just sort out the situation by like being optimistic and say, oh, people, try harder, or, you know, try to extend yourself, or try to do more, or try to be more trusting. Yeah, because that is not going to work. So, so if people want to make a intelligent effort to get out of their isolation, they need to understand the causes of their isolation. And the cause of their isolation is the heavy reliance on the internet. I'm not saying, I think the internet, I'm not trying to discourage people, target individuals from using the internet. The internet is a wonderful thing. Keep using the internet by any means, particularly if you don't have any other way of communicating with other target individuals. Keep using the internet, use it even more. But you need to be aware that the internet, what's happening in the internet is heavily rigged. And that may be one of the causes of your isolation. That's the first thing. It's the second thing, the other thing, which unfortunately I have to talk about, even without getting into any detail or saying every single word which may point a finger in a specific direction. The other thing why people are isolated, they need to understand, is that the TI community is totally, completely, utterly infiltrated from top to bottom. So chances are you are an isolated target individual, and then all of a sudden decide to make an extra effort to reach out and communicate with other people, meet up with other people. And chances are that you are probably going to come across some person that actually is an infiltrator. So this person is probably quite willing to interact with you. It try to get you in the intent completely traumatized, so you willingly are going to go back to your isolation, and you going to make a good guinea pig in total isolation. But that's the you know, because it has also a question of visibility. Again, without meaning to point the finger in any particular direction, but just to address the you know, address the nature of the problem, so people can do something about it. You know, there is a question of visibility. Genuine target individual, you know, are a lot more likely to have a lot less visibility than actually the people who are infiltrating the target community, because target individuals, most of the time, they, you know, they spend most of their energy trying to survive. They've been kept awake most of the night. They've been constantly, their bodies constantly targeted with direct energy weapons. They constantly, their properties constantly vandalized or damaged. So they probably most of the time they're scrambling just to survive, just to put food on the table, just to try to get some sleep, just to try to repair their car when they get the tire of their car slashed just to sort out their sort out their financial situation, right? Everything is conspired to make them to become impoverished or destitute. So yeah, that's what most genuine target individuals are busy doing 24/7, try to survive, try to keep their head above water. So that wouldn't is not going to allow them a lot of time, energy to have a high profile presence on social network, on the internet, or etc., etc., etc. Whilst fake target individuals, again, I don't mean to point the finger in any specific direction. I am very honest about it, but we need to address the nature of the problem to do something about it. Fake target individuals, they're not targeted. They just pretend to be targeted, so they can sleep at night. They not get their body messed around 24/7 by direct energy microwave weapon. They don't have to face a constant hostility of their neighbors. They don't have to face losing all their friends. They don't have to having their family working against them. All this kind of stuff. So they have plenty of time to promote themselves on social network, on the internet, and keep a very high profile and do launch all kind of wondrous sounding initiative and stuff. So when the poor downtrodden genuine target individual, is finally recovering from some previous trauma, try again to reach out to the target individual, who is he going to contact? Someone who has at least some degree of visibility. So a fake target individual, and the fake target individual is going to make absolutely sure that their interaction end up in complete trauma for the genuine target individual. And that is going to keep the cycle going. So but if you, as an isolated target individual, you start to realize you keep using the internet, but you start to be a bit more aware of the degree to which the internet is completely rigged against us. If you, as a target individual, you still, you try to reach out, but you start to understand that the entire TI community is totally infiltrated from top to bottom. Yeah? Does give you a better chance of, in the end, maybe finally, successfully interact with other genuine target individuals, like coming across the fake one. So, so there's no desire on my part to make aspersion or point a finger in any particular direction. I know in the past, I lost a bit of plot. I was it lasted no more than a couple of days. I made a few accusations, which then I totally withdraw. So that's nothing to do with that. I made some accusation, unwise accusation against. It probably lasted no more than 24 hours, and I immediately make some. I withdraw all my accusation. I make unreserved apologies to all the people involved. I was under a lot of pressure at the time, so I want to be very clear about this. It's nothing to do with that. I lost a bit the plot, and I made a few accusations against a number of people, and then I probably within 24 hours I completely withdraw the accusation. I deleted all the material or video, whatever, and I made unreserved apologies to all the people involved. And this, what I'm saying now, doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with that. It's something to say. I say, if you are an isolated target individual, if you want to start again to reach out to other targeted individuals, you need to understand, the ways in which the internet is completely rigged, it's the way, the target individuals community is infiltrated from top to bottom. That is a fact. I mean, you can think whatever you want about it. I tell you, it is a fact. Because it's the thing about the guinea pig. If you experiment, if you do unspeakable thing to a monkey in a laboratory, you can control them by keeping them in a cage, right? We are guinea pigs, and we are most of us live in the community, so they desperately need to control us. Yeah, to be depressed, to be feeling despondent, to give up on reaching out to other victims, to be completely isolated. That would make a perfect guinea pig for them. How they do that? The main thing they achieved that by infiltrating massively the TI community from top to bottom. I say again, I made it absolutely clear that that is not pointing the finger at anyone, at any organization. I couldn't be more clear about this. No desire on my part, no. Because I was seeing, like, I saw a lot in 2016, 2017 when I was trying to get people involved, other target individuals involved with protest and with meeting, and often, people say, like, you can tell people, like, very, retreating on some kind of private concern and giving up on keeping in touch with other victims. Like, I have all this stuff happening in my life, so I rather focus on sorting out all these different problems and sorting out all these different personal problems. The fact that it's very difficult to get any sleep, the fact that I constantly messing around with my body, the fact that constantly vandalizing my property, etc., etc. And so I could see in action people like the mental process. It's like, oh, okay, it's a lot easier for myself to cut myself off and focus on surviving from day to day. So, if people then, I think, isolated target individual want, genuine target individual, obviously, because there's a lot of fake one out there, want to move forward, to make yet another effort, which I saw all isolated target individuals in the past, they've been making a lot of effort to reach out to fellow victims. They all end up in disappointment and trauma. So if they want to try again to reach out to other target individual, I think it's very important that they have some kind of roadmap. Roadmap being the understanding of what is going on. That alter communication. I'm not saying people not to use the internet. Use it even more if you want. Try to maybe better, right? Use it in a better, more aware, more intelligent way. But so the internet represents the main hub that people are using to interact with each other. The internet is completely rigged. You need to understand this. And you need to understand that the TI community is infiltrating from top to bottom massively, right? So if you today you decide to try again to reach out to fellow target individual, you're more likely to come across not to maybe a target individual which live a few miles away from you, but who doesn't have any kind of visibility because it's too busy surviving from day to day. You probably come across all these fake target individuals which have a lot of visibility because they have a lot of visibility because they are not really targeted, so they don't have to deal with sleep deprivation, with being their body being constantly messed around with the direct energy weapon, with let's say they don't have to deal with economic sabotage, money disappearing from their account, bank account. They don't have to deal with their property being constantly vandalized, you know. On the contrary, it is all respect back the individual, the state, the power of pushing them forward every single step of the way, you know, to increase their visibility, to have to give them resources and exposure on social network and all kinds of things. So, you know, so be aware of what is going on. Don't give up on reaching out to in meeting face-to-face meeting with other target individuals. Be aware that however, some of the tools you are using, like the internet, they're totally rigged. So be aware of that. And be aware that, you know, it's just, you know, it's the point pretending that this, oh, it's not happening, you know, it's like hiding your head in the sand. I mean, deep down, most target individuals know, even if they don't talk about it, they know that their community is infiltrated from top to bottom, massively. They know. Even they prefer, oh, let's be positive, let's not talk about it, but they know deep down what is going on, right? And the thing is, so if you want to really try again to reach out, you need to be aware of the limitation of the internet, which often it may also be used to manipulate you. It may even, you know, and you know, I'm making a video now, but you know, I may tell you that I can tell you that you know, there is a lot of TI videos in over the internet, and you know, and who's to say that they're not really happy when target individuals spend hours and hours watching all these videos, because you know, that's time. That's the whole time they're not going to spend on street activism, for instance, you know. So I mean, so be aware that use the internet by any means. Try to use it in the right way, and try to be aware that the internet in itself is a minefield. That's the first thing. And try to be aware, like, you know, you want to reach out a organized face-to-face encounter with a target individual, but you need to be aware, you know, you need to unless, because otherwise we repeat the same cycle, you know, people reaching out to other target individual, end up meeting some fake target individual, end up meeting totally traumatized, then completely giving up on you know, trying again to reach out to other target individual in the future. So you need to be aware of the situation. Is a fact. Deep down, even if people don't talk about it, everyone knows about it. The target individual, I mean, we have the activism community, which is, it's not just the target individual community. We have the target individual community, people concerned about green issues, people concerned about the welfare of animals, you know, they infiltrating from top to bottom, you know. We have this example that out of 3 people, 2 were police informer. We don't know about the third one. Yes, there is no information available about the third one, but we know that at least 2 were police informers. So that's the situation in the ordinary activism community. It's the same for the target individual community. Why should it be different? They are more concerned about controlling us than they're concerned about controlling ordinary activists. So why should it be different? Yeah, it's pretty obvious that, you know, it's pretty obvious. Again, I've been crystal clear in my determination not to point a finger at anyone in particular, but you know, if you really, you know, the target individual community is infiltrated from top to bottom. If you want to, you know, when it comes to activism, it's a very, you know, it's a very twilight world. You know, even I remember reading this article by Susie Dawson, which is the president of the internet party in New Zealand, and then apparently she now, I don't know if how reliable or updated is this information, but she actually is she fly to Moscow to ask the Russian authority political asylum because she was fearing for her own safety in New Zealand. And she was also a former previous associate of Kim.com, which also has been dealt with in a very heavy-handed way by the authority down under there, both in New Zealand, in Australia, etc., etc., etc. So Susie Dawson, you know, it was. He wrote this fantastic article called "Being Julian Assange," and in this article, she deals very courageously and very intelligently, with a lot of insight, with somewhat the ambiguity which is always present in the all the activism world, be it TI activism or be it other activism, standard activism. It's talking about people. I think she was talking about this late journalist. Oh, I wish I could remember the name. Which basically he did fantastic thing for you know, to expose various crime of the deep state, particularly all the horrific things they've been doing to former Yugoslavia to destroy the country. I mean, you had a country like Ukraine before, like Libya before. You had former Yugoslavia was a very prosperous country, and they managed to completely destroyed. Now in Kosovo, which is like it's a little more than a U.S. Aircraft carrier now, there is an unemployment rate of close to 100% amongst the Kosovars. So I mean, I think I can't remember any of the journalists, but it is a fantastic thing to expose all the crime, all the crime being committed, all in former Yugoslavia, all the lies, the disinformation being spread about Milosevic and the Serbia and things, and all the duplicity and stuff. And basically, Susie Dawson was saying that although, in a way, this journalist, which now is recently passed away, well, she found out at some point that this journalist, which was doing fantastic thing in spreading a very, very needed information about what, you know, about the crime of the deep state in different countries, in different parts of the world. He also, all his life, he had also fairly close relationship with people in the CIA it was very close personally, maybe not just personally, to a lot of people in the intelligence community. So she showed I think what she was trying to say, she was trying to show that in the world of activism, you will find a degree of ambiguity as to whom you can trust, who is genuine, who is fake, maybe you will never know. But yeah, but so this is we are talking about ordinary activism, and why should be different in TI activism? Is I think the TI community is infiltrated from top to bottom, and so I think it's very important for people to, if you want to move forward, if you want to do something different, if you want to repeat the cycle of you know, trying to reach out, attend depression and disappointment, trauma, and on and on, and like to get out of the pattern of the cycle, break the cycle. They need to understand what is going on. They need to understand that the moment they decide, you know, for instance, to again reach out to fellow target individuals, what they're very likely to have a 90% chances of coming across someone which is a fake target individual, because the fake target individual, they have all the visibility at the you know, at the often, because of their circumstances, genuine target individual, you know, they have zero visibility. They maybe live a couple of miles from, you know, from you. They spend all their time trying to survive. They never go on social network. You never know about them. So I'm trying to give people, encourage people, because what I've been doing all through 2016 and 2017, I organized a huge amount of meeting, a huge amount of protest. There's all the pictures, the video there. So always they want to encourage people to get together, to meet up, to do things together. And then at the end of 2017, everyone seemed to have disappeared completely. So yeah, so I always try to encourage people, call people up, say, oh, I don't know, I'm not feeling well. Come on, try to make it, try to come along and to join us and things, you know. So yeah, I always try to encourage people to get together, but also people need to understand, let's forget about the internet in a way, but that is not that important. But the main thing, reach out, try to get together. If you know, if you even find one person, you know, which you really can trust, which you think is a fellow target individual, you really can trust, that in itself is quite revolutionary, it's quite an achievement. You know, you find someone you can really trust, and then then you can start doing things together, and you can go to official to speak together, because one thing is, it's quite a bit different when you have one person making a complaint, when you have 2 or 3 persons making a complaint. So even a small group of people, yeah, which can really know each other, they're friends with each other, they can trust each other, they can do so much. Even say 2 or 3 people, genuine TI, can go to official together, which is a lot different than going there on your own. You can have protest with 2, 3, 4 people. You can support each other. So yeah, try to reach out, try to get together with OTI, which I advise people to do, and all together with advising people to conduct some DIY activism. If you can find anyone, you can print your own leaflet. Even if you live in a rural community, you can go to your local shopping mall or shopping center and leaflet. And that will make you feel better about yourself, the fact that you have some power over your life and situation. But mainly, I will advise people to try to go to meetings, go to protests, get together, work together. But you need to know that the moment you decide again to reach out to a fellow target individual, chances are, 90% chances are, you end up to come across someone which is a fake TI, because the fake TI, the one who have all the visibility, the genuine TI often have zero visibility. They may be a few miles from you, but they have zero visibility. So be aware of the context, because otherwise you try to put your trust on the wrong person, you get traumatized. It's a cycle of depression and despondency and trauma carry on, repeat itself. So as I said, I've been absolutely clear. I don't intend to point a finger at anyone in particular. I also bring up the fact that in the past, it didn't last more than 24 hours. I make allegation against a number of people, and I completely withdraw them. I make unreserved apologies about that. So this is absolutely not about that. But you need to be aware. You need to be aware that the main thing is that if you want to navigate the TI community, you need to be aware that the TI community, if you want to navigate successfully the TI community, yeah, you need to be aware that the TI community is infiltrated from top to bottom. And the thing is, the moment you decide to reach out, yeah, you have 90% chances of ending up reaching out toward a fake TI, because they are the one, we have all the visibility, or at least let's say most of the visibility, and genuine TI often, because they're just busy trying to stay alive, they have zero visibility. So be aware, because otherwise you're going to repeat the cycle. You're going to repeat the cycle, trying to reach out, disappointment, trauma, despondency, depression, then try to reach out again, break the cycle. Be aware of the context. Be aware of the context. That's what they're trying to say. There's not a single word in my, a single word I said that was intended to point a finger at anyone. but that's the reality. The activism community and the TI activism community, not just the TI activism community. Unfortunately, we live in an age when both the activism community and the TI community, they are both infiltrated from top to bottom. I was a friend of the late. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I was a friend. I was a friend of the late Brian Howe, which spent 11 years living in Parliament Square protesting war. And but I don't want to go into that because I mean that would be getting a bit personal with a few people. So I don't want to go into that. But I was talking about infiltration. So yeah, this peace camp, obviously, like everything in the way of activism, this peace camp was heavily infiltrated, and the democracy village was heavily infiltrated. And, same story. I don't want to go into details about what I discovered, but yeah, let's keep it in general terms. But anyway, so yeah, infiltration from top to bottom, and often the people with the most visibility, I would say. Yeah, I would say, because we have evidence that is through these undercover books, that is often these people infiltrating ecological groups or animal rights groups. They often very quickly they race to the bottom and they become the organizer, the treasurer, the leader of the group. So try to understand, have a roadmap to try to understand the context you are moving into or in. Yeah, if the context is both ordinary activism community and TI community, they're both infiltrated from top to bottom. And often, I would try to be diplomatic in what I'm going to say, modify. I would think of saying something. I try to modify it slightly, but often, in terms of visibility, the fake activist, the fake TI. They're the one which, by and large, they have 90% of all the visibility. Whilst you may get TI of ordinary political activists that you hardly notice them, or in a political group, like go to a political meeting at a genuine activist or the people genuine, that you hardly notice them. But all the visibility is all. They are 90%, the fake, the spy caps, the fake TI, they are 90% of all the visibility. So be aware of that. Yeah, because if you are in a certain situation and you want to move forward from the situation, break out of the situation, you need to understand what is going on. Because if you don't understand, if you are in the countryside, you don't have a map, you are lost. Yeah, so you need a roadmap to understand where you are, and then you can move forward. Now, this broadcast has been already 2 hours and 17 minutes long, so I am inclined to stop it quite soon. But there is the last thing I need to talk about. Which is quite important, is Julian Assange. Talking about Julian Assange, I want also to let people know about the future. Yeah, this thing is not working again. Oh, is it working? No, it's not working. So talking about Julian Assange, I would like to, if I manage to go to the history, if I can find the information about the next event. The next event, no, there's nothing there. The next event about Julian Assange, I think I will have to open up my email client to find some information about. So I want to let people know about the next. Let's have a look. Yeah, here it is. VG call out solidarity with WikiLeaks Julian Assange. Sunday is next Sunday, the 4th of November, between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. There is a solidarity vigil with Julian. as Julian launches legal action against the unilateral imposition of a spatial protocol in violation of his human rights by Ecuador, we stand in solidarity with him and the people of WikiLeaks. Yeah, and then you go a bit through the history of WikiLeaks and stuff. So yeah, you may have heard about, so you know, if, I will encourage everyone to attend next Sunday, November the 4th, between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Solidarity with Julian Assange, taking Ecuador to court over his mistreatment. Mistreatment. You need to consider, amongst other things, that Julian Assange has been awarded. Julian Assange has someone being granted political asylum under the United Nations and all kinds of treaties and covenants is entitled to full freedom of speech. Furthermore, Julian Assange, a few months ago, I think in the region of 3 months ago, he was granted Ecuadorian citizenship. As an Ecuadorian citizen, I mean, all this is mind-blowing. I mean, that they just, obviously, we are in a situation where might is right, they make it up as they go along, they do whatever they want, they rely on people's stupidity and ignorance to get away with unbelievable things. So now, Julian is also, besides being an Australian citizen, and I don't believe the Australian government, which is a completely, you know, American puppet government, you know, I mean, like the colonial thing, you know. You know, it's never done anything to upheld Julian right. The Australian government is treatment of Julian as being totally despicable and disgraceful. Yeah, but also now Julian is also, apart from being an Australian citizen, he also an Ecuadorian citizen, because 3 months ago, possibly in the hope of getting rid of him or whatever, he was granted full Ecuadorian citizenship. So that's the way they treat a, that's the way, obviously, as people probably know, is being held incommunicado for 7 months without being able to access the internet, without being able to make any telephone calls, without being able to use a mobile phone, without being able to use an landline phone, without being able to receive any visitors. So worse than being in a prison, basically, because at least you know, if you're in a prison, you can make telephone calls, maybe even access the internet and receive visitors. But Julian, for 7 months, he was prevented from accessing the internet, making any telephone calls. After being, you know, after being living 6 years under the conditions he's been living in the embassy, with like police officer at night throwing a little stone, like reported. It has been reported by Susie Dawson also in an article, being Julian Assange. Police officer running up and down to the fire stairs to keep him awake and throwing a little stone against his window and things. So that's the way I've been living for 6 years without being able to get any sunlight or anything, or go out, or yeah. And then after that, they've been kept totally in total isolation for 7 months by the Ecuadorian government, which is, you know, you can, I mean, at the end of the day, it's even difficult to blame the Ecuadorian government. It's one of the Ecuadorian, you know, Ecuador is one of the poorest countries in Latin America. So, you know, usually, you know, one of the countries which, you know, is treated by the United States as some sort of colony. When they determine everything, they determine the policy. So in a way, it's actually, in a way, you are quite reluctant to blame Ecuador because, you know, of the, you know, but it's quite interesting because it's there's little more information that people may find useful. After 7 months ago, the Ecuador government decided to keep Julian Assange in total isolation, no internet, no telephone call, no visitors, apart from his legal team. And even there, they've been quite funny about it, because apparently they were making, making it very difficult for him to meet with his legal team. Yeah, so after, well, what happened? After they decided to start, I thought it was probably in March, April this year, they decided to start keeping Julian Assange in complete isolation. What happened is that Goldman Sachs, after that, decided to grant a $500 million loan to Ecuador, and at the same time, a bank for some Latin American institution, which is there to lend money to Latin American countries. At the same time, of Goldman Sachs decide to grant Ecuador another loan for a similar amount of money, $500 million. So basically, I mean, mind you, this kind of loans is like, is like for a country, it's like the kiss of death, right? It's like, oh, you're in financial difficulties, and then you get like, you go to a loan shark, they give you some money, and then after that, your life is getting completely destroyed. So like that, so this like this, this kind of loans are for a country. Oh, we saw what happened with Greece and stuff. Getting this kind of loans is like it's like it's like when you get a loan from a loan shark, and then they start, you can pay. Obviously, you're not able to pay it. They break down your door. They beat you up regularly. They take away your possessions and stuff. So I mean, it's like the kiss of death. But anyway, the interesting thing is that just after Ecuador decided to start keeping Julian Assange in total isolation, they got finally his $1 billion loan from this Latin American interbank or something, inter-Latin American bank, whatever it's called, and from Goldman Sachs. So, so you can really blame, it's very difficult to blame Ecuador, because that's a country which used to be pushed around by the United States, right, left, and center. So it's quite amazing, in a way, that they managed to do whatever they did for 6 years, holding up against the the United States. I mean, that is one of the poorest countries in the world. So I mean, in context, you can really blame them. You can blame the United States for just. Also, another thing which happened just before Julian Assange started to be held in total isolation is that Vice President Pence, at the same time, just before, visited Quito in Ecuador with talks with Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno. So that's happened, like the loans, that just happened at the same time that they started to keep Julian Assange in total isolation. You can really blame Julian Assange. You can blame this country, which after Sweden dropped all the charges, they still determined to arrest Julian Assange if he ever decide to leave on the basis of charges that have been completely dropped by Sweden. They still decide to arrest Julian Assange on a technicality, being that when he entered the Ecuadorian embassy 6 years ago, or almost 7 years ago, he breached his bail conditions. But then we have all the emails sent by the British government to the Sweden prosecutors, encouraging them to delay, because since the beginning, Julian is legal representative. They have been saying that they were quite happy for Julian to be interviewed by the Sweden prosecutors in the Ecuadorian embassy. But it's quite interesting because that was actually a common practice in Sweden to travel to other countries to interview, for the prosecutors in a case to travel to other countries to interview suspects, even in very more serious cases of murder, and they were still doing that. They were prepared to do that from the very beginning. But we have the email sent by the Foreign Office to the Swedish prosecutors asking them not to come along and not to interview Julian Assange. It could have brought along a early resolution of the whole allegation made against him, but the Swedish prosecutors were actively discouraged by the British authorities to come along and interview Julian Assange, which could have brought an early quick resolution to the whole fake allegation made against him. So we don't want to blame Ecuador because we, I think the country which is in this matter, there has been a resolution of the United States condemning in the strongest terms the way this government has been treating Julian Assange. So I mean, rather than condemning Ecuador, which is found itself over 7 years of unbelievable amount of pressure from the United States, we can hardly conceive the amount of pressure they have been under from the United States for 7 years. We probably should condemn this country at the United States, which is in all this matter, they're behaving like true rogue states. Like right is might is right, and they have been completely disregarding international law, international treaty covenants, United Nations resolution, British law, American law, natural law. So might is right at the United States and this country, they have been behaving in this matter like completely like rogue states. So I would say I will encourage people in London to come along to this video to support Julian Assange on next Sunday between 2 and 4 outside the Ecuadorian embassy in Knightsbridge. And yes, so if you do a search, you will probably easily find all the detail about this information. If you want to search for with wise up action for Julian Assange, or it's very easy to find the information. So that's what I would like to encourage people to come along. Now is this broadcast is getting a bit long in but it's a other thing I would like to say about the Julian Assange situation. I don't know if I have time because this broadcast is getting a bit overlong. But there was the other important thing I wanted to say about Julian Assange, and for years now I've always been trying to find new way of raising awareness about targeting, about covert harassment, and a lot of things happened last year. Last year I had towards the end of August, September, beginning of October, I had this idea of going outside the Ecuadorian embassy with other TI with a megaphone and encourage Julian Assange to help us expose going under his window, and which is fairly accessible from the streets. It's very close logistically, and encourage Julian Assange to help us expose organized stalking and electronic harassment. And so we did that for 3 times between August and early October. And on the first occasion, I was together with other 4 or 5 targeted individuals. On same for the second occasion. On the third occasion, after being tortured for 24 hours with directed energy weapons, I still managed to drag myself there in time for the event, which I did organize. and I was there on my own. And that is like this, that was a bit the beginning of the end for Les, London and stalking. Les, London and stalking. Because after that, I kept organizing event, and one hardly anyone was turning up, and everyone seemed to have disappeared. So I think I was outside the embassy on 3 different occasions. I was using megaphone. I was saying things like, "Julian, please help us expose organized stalking and electronic harassment. Please, Julian, please Google organized stalking and electronic harassment. You may be a victim of electronic harassment too." And that I don't think they like that very much. I think because after that, all kind of things started to happen. So people still. I was organizing an event. No one was coming. I was phoning people. People, were been willing and happy to talk to me, and I was talking to answering machine and voicemails, and people were not getting back to me, and a lot of people becoming, all of a sudden, a lot of people became impossible to raise and to reach some people over the phone, and then I just on the 2nd of October, just after these visuals outside Ecuador, I was attacked by a drug dealer which is still living in our block of flats. And at the time I show actually some short video of the way my face was looking after the, I would say call it an unprovoked attack. My face was looking after the attack. So after these 3 sessions outside the embassy, Ecuadorian embassy, I really upset some powerful people, because all kinds of stuff started to happen in my life. With Les, London and stalking, attendance to meeting at the protest. Everyone seemed to have disappeared, most of the people. And I get a lot of horrific stuff in my personal life. I think it started just about there, a lot of stuff which is going on up to the present day. And so I must have upset quite a lot of powerful people, try to connect the Julian Assange. I was like thinking a bit cynically, like to piggyback the targeting issue on the well-known and Julian Assange issue, just to finally try to get some attention for what is happening to us, or not so cynically anyway, but. I did get some success, because we were making videos of us being assigned to Ecuadorian embassy with the megaphone that they've been watched thousands of times. And then I also, at the time I managed to get a meeting with the a quite high-profile London Russia Today journalist, which I'm not going to name out of respect, but. And we meet up and managed to discuss what's happening to target individuals for several hours in a cafe. We talk. So I mean, it seemed to kind of. I did get some attention from media people and ordinary people, and for these Julian Assange visuals. But I also get a lot of negative attention from the power that be that after that there's been definitely affecting my quality of life. All the stuff happening to me now are really is in terms of mind games and things is really distressing. And thinking back, I had to conclude that this escalation of the attacks against myself, against Les, London and stalking, started right there when I organized this video outside the Ecuadorian embassy. And then myself, I started getting under myself and Les, London and stalking as an organization. We started to get under attack from every possible quarter. So I think by going out there, I say Julian Assange, we were just outside his windows, outside his windows. And I think he could hear us very well. And I was on the third occasion when I was on my own, he shows his head outside of the window quickly, which actually is something I've not been doing for a long time at the time, because at some point for years he stopped making any appearances. So he showed his head out of the window, and then I froze a bit because he looked at me. And I thought it was annoyed with me, so I just froze a bit, because I thought maybe it's like he's looking out of the window because he wants to be left alone, out of annoyance toward me. So I just froze a bit instead of rushing toward the window and starting a conversation, which I should have done. I've been cursing myself ever since. But I just froze a bit because I thought maybe he's just annoyed. He wants to be left alone, you know. And then so I froze for a few seconds, and he went back into his flat, into his room across the window. So he was hearing us. He was hearing us, and I think I truly, by doing that, Julian Assange, please help us expose organized stalking and electronic harassment. Please Google organized stalking and electronic harassment. I think I really upset some powerful people there. And then my life is activism meeting. My life is never been the same ever since, and I've been struggling to to keep my head above the water ever since, for the last 12 months. So yeah, but then it's quite interesting because there is a twist in the tail, that the last Julian interview, I think it was about March or April. The last Julian interview about March of April, with Raptly, Russia Today Raptly, something is said toward the end of the interview. And that was quite interesting, because he'd been talking about different things, and then toward the end of the interview, when he was talking about the Internet of Things, the coming, or maybe already here, Internet of Things, he says something quite interesting. He said, and I shared the video in many times, and I shared the last minute of the video to make it easier for people to watch it, to listen. He said in the last minute of the interview, when he was asked about the coming of the already present or ever-present Internet of Things, he started talking about something, and that's, I quote exactly, in inverted comma, some evil, intelligent dust, which is surround us from every side, which is being activated and interact with the electromagnetic soup, which surround us from every side. Is particularly referred to the GSM mobile phone system or network. So he seemed to be referring to this. He seemed to be talking, and I think it was a long way from everything that Julian Assange ever said before. I don't know him saying anything even remotely similar before. It does seem to sound more like some of the work of Elana Freeland, the excellent work of Elana Freeland, that Julian Assange was talking about this evil dust surrounding us from every side, interacting with this electromagnetic soup which surround us. And that does sound more like the excellent work of Elana Freeland that anything Julian ever said before. So it was obviously referring to this widespread belief now, or at least widespread in certain circles, that we have all these nanoparticles often being spread around with chemtrails, and that's and that is actually these nanoparticles. They actually made partially of heavy metals and other things. They're not even very contrary to spreading around viruses and bacteria, as we know, by different articles and the documented information about what the people apart and down were doing, which is now I'm digressing a bit, but since the 1940 to at least 1979, the people apart and down were spreading heavy metal bacteria viruses all over this country, including London Underground, to test the long-term effect on the population. So they're spreading stuff around, we know, I think it's not a conspiracy theory. And so Julian seems to be referring to these nanoparticles that they are spreading around with aircraft and chemtrails and things. And the widespread belief in certain circles that these nanoparticles are being used to increase the effectiveness of these electromagnetic soup which surround us from every side to interfere, to interact with our nervous system. And, you know, to be entirely honest, you know, I don't think, you know, to talk about, you know, to talk about a intelligence evil dust on the part of Julian. I don't think it was possibly the cleverest of moves, because you know you can do a better job to talk about you know what is the like explained very well in the work of Ilana Freeland, like it's not the intelligent evil dust, is nanoparticles, which are we know that they've been spreading stuff with the chemtrails for decades. Now they say before, if you say like talk about chemtrail, the straight answer was you must be crazy, seek help, right? Now then in the last couple of years, all these government scientists they changed the tune. They come out and say, oh yeah, we are doing it. We have been doing it for a long time. But don't worry, it's just to counter climate change. Okay, haha, interesting. So, you know, that's what they're saying. Now, before we were saying, like you say, talking about chemtrails, oh, you must be crazy. You are crazy, man. Chemtrails, what you're talking about. Now, in the last couple of years, they say they completely changed the tune. Now they're saying like, oh, chemtrails, yeah, we are doing it, of course, and we're doing it for several decades. And nothing sinister, we are just trying to counter the effect of climate change. There you go. So, yeah, so basically, so it was not, no, Julian, it probably would have been better advised to talk about nanoparticles, like instead of intelligent evil dust. And then after that, I think possibly not by accident that, you know, some of people, after he made this video talking about evil intelligent dust, I don't think it's totally by accident that some of his close associates start to talk about his mental health and, you know, and things, and yeah. But so it is basically where all this is going. All this is going, you know, I think Julian Assange, not to know about targeting individual. I mean, we were there outside for hours and hours outside the embassy with a megaphone. Julian, please help us expose organized stalking and electronic harassment. Julian, please Google electronic harassment, organized stalking. But the thing is, Julian has been, you know, living in the internet all his life. He was working with Kim.com when he was very young, and then he started WikiLeaks, and then he was a hacker working for the Australian government, helped to expose pedophile network. So he was doing actually a lot of good work in different areas. And Julian, do you really think that Julian, with the information about targeting, organized stalking, electronic harassment, being all over the internet, because it is all over the internet, and so, you know, there is no limit to people's ability to be in denial of something or to pretend something doesn't exist. But it is a fact. It's all over the internet. So it would be very strange if Julian, you know, never heard about, oh, I never heard about target individual. It's spent all his life in the internet. I mean, this thing is all over the internet. It's very strange. Oh, I never heard about target individual, organized stalking, electronic harassment. It's very unlikely. So, and then when we were outside the Ecuadorian embassy, one of the things I was saying with the megaphone to Julian was, you may be a victim of electronic harassment too. And we know that there are kind of strange things were happening with, you know, it's certainly been a victim of organized stalking in the embassy. We have information that, for instance, on the night before, I think it was 2012 or early 2013, when the night before we were waiting for a decision by the Ecuadorian government whether Julian was going to be awarded political asylum. Was the night before. He said there was all the night the police were running up and down the stairs outside his window doing drills. Or we know from Susie Dawson, which the police used to throw little stone and pebble against his window to keep him awake at night. So he's certainly been a victim of organized stalking, Julian. We know that. We know the facts. So when I was outside his window, I was saying things like, Julian, you may be a victim of electronic harassment too. And now he's talking about the evil intelligent dust. What that tells you, to me, that tells me that Julian has been a victim of electronic harassment in the embassy, and in a way, I would say, like, it would you know, I would be very surprised if, you know, all the 6 years and like, you know, as Julian has been in the embassy, and I would be very surprised if they not use electronic harassment against Julian. They were trying all the possible conceivable way to make his life as miserable as possible, including organized stalking, as just explained. So I would be very surprised if they were not using electronic harassment against Julian. So what is seen to be happening here is that, like most victims in the early stage of electronic being targeted with electronic harassment, Julian is trying to get his mind around what is happening to him with Julian, which may be enormously knowledgeable in all kinds of different areas, which be a wizard with computers and with cryptography and everything, which is maybe, you know, enormously knowledgeable about geopolitics, but being possibly or probably an early victim of electronic harassment, what is mentioned of evil electronic dust tells me is that Julian, as like all the people who start getting targeted with electronic harassment, organized stalking, is still at the phase when he's tentatively is trying to understand and make sense of what is happening to him. So he's talking about, you know, he's talking about evil electronic dust interacting with electronic soup. And then some of the associates started to, oh, we are worried about this mental health and blah, blah, blah. He would have been probably a lot better advised if he wanted to talk about the subject, to talk about nanoparticles instead of evil electronic dust. But then you may see that Julian, which is an exceptional human being, which is probably enormously knowledgeable in all kinds of areas. It may also be an early victim of electronic harassment, by talking about evil electronic dust is showing that, like many victims of electronic harassment, at the beginning, people struggling to get their head around what's happening to them and to make any sense of what is happening to them, and so is talking about evil electronic dust in his last interview. And so I think I exhausted all the subject, most, not all the subject actually, but at least most of the main subjects I wanted to talk about. Freedom of speech, how insidious is what is happening at the moment, because we live in an age when all is holding into balance, all is holding into balance. There is very increasing people increasing awake and increasing aware of what is going on, and country is creating alliances to counter the evil influence of the bankers, the banking cartel, the banking syndicate, which is destroying humanity, which is destroying the planet. And so it's really, and most of this is based on the, it's been growing thanks to communication taking place on the internet. And the fact that now everyone is self-censoring is very, very worrying, for the outcome of things and the crisis and how things are developing, how things are going to develop. Elections, future elections. So, I talk about that. I'm very genuine, very, very concerned about freedom of speech, because there is a silent revolution going on with people every day becoming more aware, more awake. But the freedom of speech under really grievous and severe attack is really a threat. Self-censoring is probably central to it, and is very, very dangerous. So I've been talking about the censoring of freedom of speech, the importance, how essential it is at this juncture for people to hold on to freedom of speech. Against big corporations, against political correctness, which prevent us from addressing our real problem or talking about real problem, let alone addressing them. Freedom of speech is central, is under heavy threat. Don't make any mistake. Oh, we never succeed. People say, oh, we never succeed to censor people, to censor the internet. They're already succeeding. Don't be complacent that the freedom of speech is in great danger. That's why I talk about freedom of speech. I talk about corruption. The corruption on both sides of the Atlantic is something which mind-boggling. Is stuff going on you couldn't possibly make it up. There's some of the stuff going on you couldn't make it up. So corruption and pedophilia on both sides of the Atlantic. We have Jimmy Sauer in this country. We have the Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad agent. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. Is doing all the things Jimmy Sauer was doing in this country. Jeffrey Epstein is doing time in the United States. He's still a free man in spite of everything. Is the main assistant is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, which was a well-known Mossad agent. So there you go. I rest my case. So corruption and pedophilia on both sides of the Atlantic. I did not have the time to talk about what's happening with Melanie show, and I really concerned about the well-being of Melanie show, because Melanie show was is starting is as a very articulate, very articulate whistleblower denouncing, children abuse, sexual abuse at Beechwood, a children home, and that's the way she started. It's the way it look like they managed to completely destroy her sanity. So it looked like they really succeed, because that's one of the things they do. If you get in the way of the machination, and either they kill you, or they completely assassinate your character to neutralize you, or sometimes they succeed in people getting so confused that they lose their sanity. And that's what seemed to be happening to Melanie show. And you know, so where is the you know, where is the Labour Party about what's happening to Melanie show? Oh, probably, oh, we only support the you know, the causes which are nice and clear cut, and we don't get into this other stuff, like the fact that they you know, been driving a paedophilia whistleblower into insanity. So I mean, I'm very concerned about the well-being of Melanie Shaw. There don't seem to be any information available on her whereabouts, but she seemed to have lost the plot a bit. She said herself to the judge, I did lost the plot a bit, so but you know, so the corruption and pedophilia on both sides of the Atlantic, stuff you can possibly make it up, or you couldn't possibly make up. Then I talk about an important thing, which is about the target individual. We are told that we are legion. We are told that there are 10,000 of us. We're going to crack it next week. Is going to end targeting, but most the experience of most individual, genuine target individual is very different. Total isolation, total hostility from every quarter. Some of them have never met another, you know, target individual in person in their entire life. So I think we need to get out of the situation, and to get out of the situation, we need to understand the main cause. Without pointing the finger toward anyone, absolutely not. The main cause is that, like the ordinary activism community, the TI community is infiltrating from top to bottom. And the thing is, like in the normal activism community, the people to have all the visibility, 90% of the visibility, are the fake people. We thought that the exposure of the spy caps, that they were like, you know, they were entering groups, then they become the leader of the group, and then they were the people keep liaising with other groups, they were becoming the treasurer of the group. So it's the same thing is happening with, you know, without pointing the finger in any specific direction. The same thing is happening with the TI community. I mean, I'm not talking about leadership or non-leadership, but I'm talking in general, in the most general term I can afford, is infiltrating from top to bottom. So when you're reaching out, you know, because the fake one both in the political world, in the political activism world, and the TI world, are the one who have 90% of all the visibility. When you try to reach out, you need to understand this, because if you know where you are, you don't know where you are going. If you don't have a map to understand where you are, then you won't, you know, you don't know where you are direct toward, or where you are going, or what is direction of Mars travel is. So, you know, completely create from top to bottom. Fake TI, 90% of the visibility. If you reach out, you're probably likely to reach out to a fake TI. You end up in trauma. You end up withdrawing into a private space and giving up. You shouldn't give up, because we need to work together, to support each other, to do activism together. Is very important. So that's all for now. And I hope that some of the information I try to share, some people may find it of some interest, or whatever. Let me know what you think. Let me give you your feedback if you think the information is, you know, like is useful in any way. If you think I'm talking nonsense or whatever, so that's all for now.